The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Whether you're new to sales or a lifetime veteran, the Blackbelt Sales Podcast will sharpen your sword and guide you to master the art of sales. And now, here's your host, the ninja himself, Gene Slade.
Man, I like that track. I was bouncing over here before she put us back on.
I think I want to. Boom. I love it.
Yeah. So welcome to 2024. I know that'll date this podcast, but this is the first podcast of 2024. I got my main man, Don Johnson, an executive coach of Lead Ninja, former business contractor, all-star, now trainer, here with me today. And Don, we're talking about starting the year off strong. We're going to be talking about what some of our students are doing, what some of the other people that we know around the industry are doing, kind of just set a bar, because I think a lot of time, I heard somebody say this morning that their goal was $450,000 in revenue for the company for the year. And man, I'm here to tell you, if that's what you're out to do, you're going to always be the low guy on the totem pole. You're always going to be the guy that has to run the calls that the superstars don't want to run. And really, you're not being much of a profit center for the company. Am I wrong here, Don?
Yeah. If you really look at, hey, Quentin on there, if you really look at all of this numbers that a business wants to do, 450,000, you're going to have a lot of employees just to hit any realistic goals. So, but $450,000 and you've been with the company for 15 to 20 minutes, I could probably be okay with that mentality, because we haven't shown you what's possible yet. And so it's time to do that. So I hope Quentin's on here. I saw him pop up, but we should have a good crowd. This is a good topic today.
So I'm wondering from the audience, if you guys would throw down in the comments for me, what do you think is a good or a great number for sales revenue these days if you're a selling technician or a comfort advisor? If you want to break those numbers out, if you think they're different, you can, because that was one of the questions we had this morning, because one of our students knows of a comfort advisor doing $8 million a year, and he's like, is that even possible for somebody who's a selling technician? And we've got some answers for you there. But what did you say, Don? I just wanted to make sure that we got that down in the comments. What do you guys think is a lot, or what are you striving for as your revenue goal for this year? That would be awesome to see.
Yeah. Maintenance techs, service tech, and a comfort advisor, I think have some different scales, but I think comfort advisors should be $3 to $5 million guys. I think service techs that get some demand calls that certainly are getting things 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, where there's more things that could be talked about. I think those guys, should be thinking about $1.5 to $2 million. And I think if you're on the stuff that's 3 years and younger, breathe easies, you've got a chance at really doing, 750 to $1 million a year is what I would say. If you're getting things less than 3 years old, because that's always the complaint is I only get the young stuff. You can still do $750 to $1 million a year on the stuff we just put in last year, 2 years ago, right?
Man, there's a lot more than that available there. But Don's talking about kind of a minimum expectation, right?
Yes.
Because seriously, how many of
What's
those,
possible?
if it's HVAC, how many of the duct systems were replaced at the same time?
Virtually zero, right? Virtually
and
zero.
And how many of them have energy-wasting, comfort-robbing mistakes?
A lot, exactly. Most comfort advisors, if you have them in your company, concentrate on the box first. There are those few exceptions to the rule, but they love to change out the box, and they forget the rest of the stuff and leave that for the other guys to get. So we can be nice to them and give them a lead, because they're probably going to be nice and give us back an opportunity for just as much in indoor air quality and duct systems and duct repairs and duct sealings.
You know what the difference between a $3 million comfort advisor and or selling technician and like a $6 million comfort advisor selling technician? What would you say the difference is, Don?
Probably no more calls, very little more calls. It's obviously selling the whole system versus just selling the one item that was on your mind. Instead of just
Yeah,
selling the one item that you think they're going to buy, go ahead and present the whole list. And I love Corbin, when you remember, when he's just started putting it on the list, the amount of generators and extra stuff he selling just started happening without
yeah,
really a lot of extra effort. And he didn't, the thing I hear is, if you put too much on the list, people buy nothing. That's not the case if you present it
no,
right. That's not the case at all. So just by presenting the list, and if it were free, that should be the measure. If it were free, what would everyone want? Tell you, I mean, I'd want the inverter system with the best filtration and breathe easy. 5 stages, 6 stages, humidifiers, dehumidifiers. If it were free, what would people demand to have once you teach it to them? So
yeah.
that's the only standard you have to ask to get it on the list. It's okay if they don't want you to do the work. It's just your job to let them know that it's possible for you to do that work.
And Don, even if they're not having an upfront conversation or trying to have a conversation about everything that's on the list, if they're quoting $15,000 worth of equipment, and then they've got $15,000 or $20,000 worth of stuff underneath that includes duct system, breathe easy, things like that, and they don't even bring this stuff up down here, do you think the customers aren't going to ask about it? They initiate the conversation, and that's all this are several different conversations throughout the visit. Think of it that way. You guys are so afraid to put $40,000 or $50,000 worth of stuff on the list that the customer could buy or would want if it was free, and then just allowing conversations to happen. You don't have to push it. You don't have to push anything down anybody's throat. Listen, if I don't bring it up, if something's on the list and I don't bring it up, do you think the client's not going to go, yeah, but what about this stuff down here? What is this? And then we have that conversation. It's just the second conversation.
Exactly. And if you present it the right way, were you aware? Did you know? Could you imagine? Do you suppose? Would you believe adding those to the statements you were going to already say about the items just makes it where you're not being pushy? Did you know that your ductwork is leaking? Were you aware that you could get stuff being pulled in from your crawl space in your attic? You want me to take care of that while we're here, while we're doing your system as well? That may be all that's needed for really adding some duct work or duct sealing or whatever that you're presenting. Just a couple of simple statements. We often want to sell the product when all we really got to do is get them to admit they have the problem, and they'll just say, take care of it for you, right? They'll just trust you enough to say, what do we do? Well, we just seal it. We replace it. We put the Breathe Easy package on when we do the system. And they'll be like, okay, let's do it. The add-ons are the easiest sell. What is it that you talk about that the first sale's the hardest, and then the people, when they place their bets, once they place their bet, they'll go back and add to it a certain percentage of the time, Gene?
Yeah, we're wired so that if we make a decision, we immediately begin to justify that decision so that there's not remorse, right? And we can't be wrong, because if we're wrong, then there's pain associated with that and potential embarrassment, which is the worst thing that a human being can go through, right?
Yes.
So, like, that's the worst emotion. That's what all of you run from more than anything is embarrassment. That's why you won't turn live on and go live like Don and I are doing right now. We've done it so many times now that it's not as scary, right? But that's really the answer.
That's why the people will not raise their hand in class when you're in school and do the answer, because you're afraid you're going to be wrong. And we're not afraid we're going to be wrong. We're going to be afraid we're going to be ridiculed for being wrong more than it is the wrong. And that's why people will not on Zoom calls turn on their camera. That's why people on Zoom training classes, when you ask them, will not step up and talk. They won't get out of the stands. They just want to stay in the back. I set up my training room one time where there was no front row, no back row mentality. It was just one row, one big arch. And I just basically said, everybody wants to sit on the back row? Fine. We'll just have one row and everybody can sit on the back row. The back rows fill up first in the meeting room. Well, that's because we're kind of scared that we're, going to be embarrassed. He might ask me a question and somebody behind me might giggle at me. If I'm at the back, right. I can't no one can laugh at me that way. I won't know about it. So it's a big difference. But all that being said, what's possible? Let's dream big. What is possible in this business?
We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that right after something here. So I'm glad that Don brought that up. Guys, one of the things that Don and I do really well is take guys that are doing $2 million or $3 million in sales and help them get very quickly. I'm talking about sometimes as little as overnight to that $4, $5, $6 million in revenue range. So if you're an owner out there and you've got somebody like that, you really truly want to see exactly how we do that. And coming up January 24th through the 29th of this year, we have got our next live event, and that's where the transformation happens. We've got a 16,000 square foot house that we all come together in, we live in. It's limited to a very small number of people. And if you've got somebody that you want to take from $2 to $4 or $6 million, you've got to get yourself out there. If you want to see exactly how we do it, here's a quick video for the next event. And then we're going to get into what's possible. Go ahead and roll it.
I'm Jonah Gorlitz. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. I've been doing HVAC for about 1.5, 2 years now, and I work for Instanair out of Shepherdsville, Kentucky.
Hi, I'm Kim Kay. I work with Leads Nearby, and I've been working with Leads Nearby for over 8 years, and we work with HVAC, electrical, and plumbing contractors.
So my name is Chris Laurentino from Comfort Specialists. We're out of Morris County, New Jersey. I've been in the industry about 17 years now.
I joined the mastermind because it's not just a sales course. Actually, it's not really a sales course at all.
So the reason I joined the mastermind is I've seen some people's results online.
This is different from other events that I've been to. I've been to various contest events for quite a few years now.
It's really taught me how to understand and communicate to the customer well. It's actually my second mansion trip.
From the community of how well some people have done, and I really wanted to be a part of that.
And this one is the best space. It's the most glamorous space. And it's basically one training that builds upon each other.
Share in that success. And I felt that the best way to achieve that was to actually get here and get involved in the training. And frankly, in my mind, there's no better way to train than in person. Since I've been in the class since December, my income has improved, my revenue for the company has improved, my customer relations have improved, and my call volume has decreased while the profits and everything else has increased. Being here is a unique experience that you can't replicate in just a Zoom class. There's so much more that you get out of this.
And the other events I've been to, it's a lot of information on a lot of topics where this is very concentrated. I feel like it allows you to have more focus.
Boom. January 24th through the 28th is when you want to get down here to Orlando, Florida. And you can get more information on that by putting mansion down in the comments. Just put mansion in the comments or text me directly. You can text me on my personal cell, 239-848-6533. There it is for you. If you're listening to this or watching this after, it's likely that we'll be having another one of these, so you can still text that number, and we'll get somebody to help you out if I can't help you out right then. Cool. So, Don, we're talking about what is actually possible. So what have you seen for the technicians and comfort advisors out there? What have you seen as what is possible?
Well, we had this comfort advisor conversation this morning, and $8 million came up. You know, I've been to the class for the $9 million guys. So you hear about a few $8-9 million kind of guys out there. And so you break it down and you go, wait a minute, okay, is this possible? Is this really possible? And it's not impossible. You just have to believe. And sometimes when you see someone else has done it, it's easier for you to believe that you can do it. But once that you do it, it seems so simple. Once you do 5 million, it seems easy. But yet when you were doing 1.5, you thought 5 was impossible. That's the same thing with the business and my company. You know, we were doing 220,000 a month, and you know, I set this crazy goal to do 600,000, and everybody looked at me like I was strange. And then, you know, my last year we averaged $1 million a month without a month less than 600,000. So sometimes you have to stretch your mind a little bit. So 8 million. How are you going to do $8 million as a comfort advisor? I'm sure you're going to say, well, at my company, it's different. At my company, it can't be done. At my company, we don't have the kind of clientele. All of those are just the BS story you're telling yourself.
They're excuses, yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, if it were possible, how would you do it? Not. And then you just build it. You got to do about $10,000 average per call on 3 calls a day through the year. Do the math. It works out. 32,000
a day.
A day.
A day.
Yeah. 32,000 a day. That's, you know, again, 3 calls a day, about 10,000. Okay. About 10,600, but still roughly $32,000 a day. The way equipment prices have gone up, the way this refrigerant change, everything inflation wise, that's 32,000 is probably 2 sales in this day and age. It could even be 1 when you do duct systems and 1-day duct systems for $10,000-12,000, which happen quite regularly in this business. I know it sounds odd, but it can be done.
Inflation has done some of the work for everybody.
Yes. So we'll be sitting here at some point talking about how 8 million is not, 5 million is not any accomplishment anymore. Right.
You know, I'm sitting here thinking about who are the most protected people from an earnings standpoint in a challenged economy. It's the commissioned salesperson. Their income doesn't change. I mean, it might change with people not buying as much, but I mean, you still it's a way better position to be
change. The economy doesn't change your percentage.
And you're the most in demand.
Yes. I like Weldon Long's line that says the economy, the weather, the price of anything does not determine our success. Just determines how hard we have to work. That's
Yeah.
it. That's the way you have to look at it. None of those are factors except for determining how hard we have to work. Yeah, if people were waiting in line, like at the gas station for our services, we probably wouldn't have to work quite as hard. Um, waiting in line at a Costco. If you've ever been to Costco and looked over at the gas pumps, I mean, it's crazy. 5 or 10 cars deep at 5 or 10 wide. Wouldn't that be nice if that was people coming at you? Well, not. And I don't wait in those lines. I like to drive electric. So even the Hummer's electric now. So I love that.
Did it come
Um,
in?
it did. Yeah, it did.
Oh,
So I should be at the mansion in the Hummer this year. So
you'll be crab walking into the driveway.
I'm gonna try. We're gonna have fun with it. So you want to ride in the Hummer? Come to the mansion. I would say put that down.
Hell
Put
yes.
Hummer down in the
1,000 horsepower.
Yeah, put that down in the list, and we'll laugh a little bit, but we'll know you want to come to the mansion if you write Hummer down there. So so it's got to determine how hard we have to work, not what our income will be. We just might have to work a little harder. And I want to tell you, work harder on yourself. Make your skills hard. Make your skills better, right? Don't ask that. I think this is another famous quote, and I'm going to mess it up, but don't ask for it to be easier. Ask that you be better, right? If you're going to ask for something, don't ask for the job or the sale to be easier. Ask for your skills to be stronger and better. That's what you ask for.
Don't go ask for more leads. The boss already knows he doesn't have the leads. Don't remind him of something. Do like what Eric did this morning. We've been talking about this for probably 6 weeks now or so. We've been encouraging the guys to go out and just knock on some doors.
Right.
And we've told them, listen, if you got to get 19 no's for the 20th to be a yes, and you knew that there was $20,000 in revenue sitting behind that door, which ended up converting into some sort of income for you, would you knock on 19 doors and get 19 no's? And the answer is yes. So Eric didn't have any calls to run. He finished at 2.7 million this year.
That's what I remember saying. Mm-hmm.
Yep. The year before was 1.4. Year before that was 950. But this guy didn't have any calls. So as a selling technician, he just started knocking on doors. He got 17 no's, and then the 18th was a yes. She let him in. He ended up finding 3 cracks in her heat exchanger, and she wants a price on a new heating and air conditioning system, and he'll be doing that quote today. So, guys, if you knew that, and it doesn't take that long to knock that many doors, probably half an hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour of additional work. Is there any training that goes into that for you? Do you get any experience out of that? Does that make you a tougher, more confident, and better person?
Yes.
So, Don, if you had to boil it down to one word, I have a question for you. If you had to boil it down to one word, what is the difference between a 1.5 million and a $5 million salesperson?
One word, fortitude. I don't know if that's too many syllables for us, but the guts to try, the guts to go and be different from everybody else. So internal fortitude, guts, that's part of it. Yeah, you got to have the skill set. Once you get the skill set, you got to have the guts to go use it. So I don't know. What's your one word, Gene?
Training.
Got to have the skills. I agree. Got to have the skills.
Yeah, I mean, between a 1.5 and a $5 million salesperson is the real question, right? Because a $1.5 million salesperson / technician, he already has some communication skills, right? He probably hasn't been taught exactly what to say in every situation like we teach them how to say, but he's figured it out to 1.5 million. He's gotten decent, right? You take that guy and you really give them training, and then of course there's action that they have to take with that training. If they don't take the action, forget about it, right? It's never going to work.
Right.
But if you give them that skill set now, the communication side of it, boom, you've changed not only your business, but you've changed the trajectory of that human being's life and generations to come, right? So, and do you think they're not going to be grateful to you for teaching them how to go from making $150,000 a year or $100,000 a year to $400,000 or $500,000 a year? Imagine the joy. I mean,
Right.
that's where you got a lot of the joy in your business, Don.
I absolutely love to take the guy that everyone else would throw away, have nothing to do with, no skills, and get that guy produced, that might be making $20,000-$30,000 somewhere else, and get him to make 80, 90, 100,000 with us. That was fun. That was fun. Now, these guys were typically 20 years old, 19 years old. And I love the story today. 20-year-old kid making
19.
19, made 125 last year because he came to the class twice and continued with it. And I would tell you that I think the guy hasn't put out his best year, meaning there's so much more for him to do, learn, and implement on top of this. So keep going, because there's so much more upside.
Man, when I see a kid like Jonah come in at 19 years old and in his first full year in the communication side, like for him to make more than both of his parents combined is just like, that's what we live for here. I mean, that's going to change the trajectory of the family tree even. Right?
Yes.
Jonah's going to be able to give this stuff to his kids. And it's not about what you leave for your kids, but it's about what you leave inside of them, y'all. That makes a difference.
Yes.
So training and fortitude are the two words of the day.
Yeah, I think you got to have the skills, and you got to be willing to go use them. When you stare someone in the eye and you back down first, then you got to have a little more fortitude, a little more guts to actually use it. But one skill set do I want you to have is ask questions. This one gets missed a lot. Even in the class this morning, I heard guys telling us stuff instead of asking, were you aware? Did you know? And I can't push that enough or sell that enough. There's a big difference when the client comes to their own conclusion that they have an issue versus telling them you have a cracked heat chambers. It was in that cracked heat chamber conversation that it kind of clicked for me. Telling them that, were you aware this is an issue? Do you know how serious?
Yeah, will you do that for a heat exchanger for them real quick? Like, just kind of let's throw some questions around that we would use to establish a need for a cracked heat exchanger. And just so everybody I can clarify this for everybody. When we say establish a need for it, it means that we're essentially going to sell the problem, but we're going to utilize questions to get the client to come to their own conclusion that something needs to be done about this. We're not going to be pushy salespeople, right? So we're standing at the furnace, Don, and they're cracked heat chambers, and we're able to show them or whatever. What are some of the questions we're going to use?
Yeah. Do you know what that is? Were you aware it looked like that? Simple to get started. Do you know what that is? Were you aware it looked like this?
Let me role play it with you then.
Okay.
So go ahead. Do you know what that is?
You're going to want to see this. Yeah, you're going to want to see this. Do you know what that is?
It's my furnace.
Yeah. Do you see those little spots and areas right there? Can you see what those are?
Yeah.
Were you aware that those are not supposed to be there?
Mm-mm.
Can you see that? Well, you ought to flip it around because you're so much better. Put me on the spot, dude. Make me look bad.
All right, let's do it. Let's flip it around then.
Okay.
Mr. Johnson, check this out right here. Do you see this right here? Do you see these 4 little tubes right here?
Yeah.
Do you know what those tubes do?
No. Mm-mm.
So you weren't aware that that's where the fire shoots into, and it goes up through like this circular chamber here, and then it goes out your exhaust. Do you know that those tubes absorb the heat from the fire, and that the blower down here blows across that, and that's where you get the heat coming into the house?
No, I didn't know that.
Do you know the name of this device behind here? Were you aware that that's called the heat exchanger? Have you ever heard of that term before?
I guess so, yeah.
Got it. So when fire goes into this metal thing, what happens when you heat metal up,
It expands.
right? And then when it cools down, what does it do?
Well, it contracts again.
Got it. And then heats up, cools down, heats up, cools down. Have you ever taken a paper clip and just went like this several times? What eventually happens?
It'll break.
Got it. And also, did you know that if we don't have enough air flowing through this machine, that heat exchanger in there, that firebox I like to call it, that metal expands a little bit more than it should, and then contracts, and then a little more than it should? Do you think that reduces the life of that metal?
Yeah, probably.
Any
so.
idea what? Any idea why we would be concerned about that metal cracking?
You don't want that fire, I guess, to get in your house.
Sure. And that's not a very likely situation here, so rest easy about that. But do you know what some of the byproducts of fire are? Were you aware that when you have a flame, that you also have something called carbon monoxide? And did you know that when those cracks get big enough, that some of that carbon monoxide can slip into the airstream in your house? And while it may not kill you, did you know that there are some really negative long-term side effects of breathing in low levels of carbon monoxide over time?
I know, I didn't know that.
Do you know that it can cause personality changes? It can cause nerve problems. It can cause sexual side effects. I mean, it's not good.
No, it's not.
And in worst case scenario, yes, you know what carbon monoxide does when somebody breathes in too much of it. And that happens. It just does. It happens. So can you see now why we've got some concern here?
Yes. What should we do about it? Yeah.
Now that's where it comes in. And they're like, what should we do about this? What should I do? What would you do? When they start asking you those types of questions, now you know that they're sold on the problem and they're looking for a solution. This is a multi-step process, people. And when you ask the right questions, like we did, it's been decades since I've sold furnaces, right? But that's how you reel a customer in as opposed to pushing on them. When I ask you these questions, you come to your own conclusion that something needs to be done. Here's another little tip and secret for you. You ready? Should we give it to him, Don?
Go right ahead.
All right. When I'm asking you questions instead of telling you something, when I tell you something, you've got something that I like to call the truth-false filter, right? And you run everything you hear through that truth-false filter and decide, is it bullshit or should I keep it, right? But when I ask you a question as opposed to telling you something, there's almost an enlightenment happening. And most of the time, I go straight around that true-false filter. The brain doesn't think, should I decide if this is bullshit or keep it, right? It accepts it as enlightenment. And there's a little endorphin rush that also happens there, which makes people feel good. Go ahead, Don.
Well, if you're hearing, I'm going to get a second opinion about what you told me about my air, my furnace, my ductwork, whatever, this is the problem. People will get a second opinion of your opinion all day long. No one ever says, I'm going to get a second opinion about what I think to be true. When it's their own conclusion, they kind of believe, wait, I understand what it is. I know what it is. I don't need a second opinion because I know. You know, we jokingly say that no one gets a second opinion about what we already believe. We're out there looking for people to support our own opinions, not to contradict them. But if you tell me something, I'm out to find something that contradicts you. That's our human nature, is to contradict what other people say, but to find the things that complement, support what we believe already. So when you're hearing that, the problem is that you're telling them rather than getting them come to their own conclusion. You shouldn't be telling. You should be asking the questions, letting them come to their own conclusions. It's so much more powerful. And you did a great job with that.
If they were sleeping on us, Don, they would have thought that I was telling, right? Because their brain was so easily accepting the questions I was giving. But if they rewind the tape to about the 30-minute mark, they'll find out that every single thing that I said was a question.
Right.
Every single one.
I was going to say, put in the comments how many statements you think he made, and the answer would have been zero. There
Yeah.
aren't. They're all questions.
And guys, it comes off
Virtually
so
zero.
much softer. It really comes off softer. You guys are telling the client there's a problem, then telling them the solution, and then giving them the price, and then expecting them to buy. And if they don't, you want to try talking about value. Okay. This is the biggest challenge that I have with the sales training business nowadays is everybody's talking about selling value when clients don't even think that they need it. So you're putting the cart before the horse. You missed a step a long time ago. And if you want to be able to ask questions like I asked them, then you definitely want to put Mansion down in the comments and get some information about the next class, or you want to text me on my cell at 239-848-6533. There it goes, right there, on the screen. Yep. Seriously, if you want to learn how to ask questions like that, if you're sick and tired of coming up against customers that have got to get second opinions, they need to talk to their significant other, they got to think about it, or if they're just telling you your price is too high, you're losing millions of dollars a year in sales, okay? You've got a marketing budget. If you don't have a sales training budget to go along with your marketing budget, does that make any sense? Does it make any sense?
Better closing, better sales training can help you reduce your marketing budget. Because again, if you sell a high percentage of the calls, twice the amount of income, you're so busy, you won't be looking to how can I we did a lot of $39 tune-ups, and we've got some guys that do less than that or free tune-up, and it really doesn't matter. But if you don't have your training system in place, all getting more calls will accelerate you losing money, right?
Yep, exactly.
You got to have a process to make money on those calls. We did, and so I was very happy with $39 tune-ups for 10 years, right? And, maybe even 20 years almost, we were $39 tune-ups. But we were okay because we had a process. And that process resulted in equipment sales, Breathe Easy sales, and maintenance agreements. That's how we focus. 8 years and older, we're going to talk equipment, whether it's Comfort Advisor coming or a selling tech. That's your business plan. That's okay. Either one works for me. 8 years down to 3 years, we talked about Breathe Easy, ductwork upgrades. We didn't really pick on the equipment. Yeah, we're going to put surge protectors on it. We're going to put easy starts on it. But 3 to 8. Less than 3, we wanted to make sure, did we put it in? And let's not throw our coworker under the bus mentality. And that happens in your business where one guy goes out and says bad stuff about the last guy because he thinks it makes him look better, and it doesn't. When you say something bad about another coworker, it brings the whole company down. You look worse while they're looking worse because now the company's like, or the customer's like, well, if they'll hire that kind of person, I don't know what kind of person you are. So that's how we broke it out. We had a system. And that's kind of the point is get your training, get your system built. Then you can accelerate that. Then you can grow.
Yeah, I want to talk to the guys out there that are doing $1 million, $2 million, $3 million a year, right? Who really do want to have that growth, but the competition for the marketed lead has gotten super, super tough, right, over the last several months. Guys, I want to show you how to double the size of your company almost overnight without having even one more call on the board. Okay. That's what Don and I are really, really good at. Really good at doubling companies in 60, 90 days that are in that range of size, right? If you go to a $6 million company, you're trying to double that to $12 million in 90 days, there are going to be some serious problems that have to be dealt with. And it's going to take a lot more resources to do that. But if you're doing $1 million, $2 million in that range, it's very, very easy to, in 60 days, double the revenue that's coming into your company without running even one more lead. So you want to get to the next event, the Mansion event. Put Mansion down in the comments if that describes who you are. All right. And let's have a conversation. We don't bite over here. Okay. You can tell us, no, it's not a big deal. Okay, Don.
If it's a money issue, just have that conversation, because if it were free, wouldn't you want to get all the knowledge that you could? Well, there are some ways and some things that can help out payment issues or whatever. If it's a money issue, put that in the text, and let's have that conversation.
Yeah,
Let's
send
have
me
that
that via
conversation.
text. Say, hey, Gene, I really want to go to the Next Mansion event. I just ain't got all the cash right now, right?
Yeah,
Or something
can't.
like that. And we'll work something out with you.
Right. Well,
we don't
I will say,
necessarily
because
have to have.
I've heard it in December, is payrolls. If you're the business owner, payrolls kind of weigh on our minds, and it might get difficult this year, this next couple of months, depending on the area of the country. It could be very difficult. I always said, for my areas, Alabama, January and February, the toughest 2 months. Sometimes we just celebrated March 1st, not because we had a great January and February, because that damn month was over. So, so we understand there's reasons, but if it were free, wouldn't you want to have all the knowledge that Gene has, and a source to go to ask questions? That's both of us. So I know we're coming close to our time today. We kind of committed to doing this a couple times a week. We'll be back later, but if you're live, put live in there, and if you see this on replay, put replay down in the comments so we'll know. And from there, just ask your questions, and you've got the phone number. Text. You can text, and we can have that conversation.
Yeah, guys, putting live or replay down in the comments is kind of the way that you pay the fee for us getting on here and kind of just pouring out as many nuggets for you as we possibly can, plus guest speakers that we bring on. So that's all it is. Plus, every time that you put live or replay in the comments, it'll show this video to a couple of your friends, and that's how we get new people into the following. So that's why we ask you to do that. So we appreciate you for paying the fee and doing that, and not just consuming the content and being a kangaroo. You know what a kangaroo is, right, Don?
No, what is that?
No, as a customer. So kangaroos are the customers whose arms are just long enough to take all your free shit and shove it in their pouch, right? but they can't get around to their wallet. That's a kangaroo.
They can't hand anything back, can they? Yeah,
that's right. So if you know some kangaroos, put kangaroo down in the comments, right? if you're a kangaroo, put I'm a kangaroo down in the comments. I know some of you are watching. Some of you kangaroos out there. We'll see you on Thursday, y'all. Thanks, Don, for joining us. Go out there and slay some dragons, ninjas. Peace.
Peace.